It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Abuja. I want to start off today's show with a bit of a personal story. On the 14th of November 2005, just 6 days after I was called to the Nigerian bar and 2 days after my elder brother's wedding, I was driving in the Zone 1 area of Abuja with my friends Chisom Mbono Ezoke and Ofem, when an unmarked car drove ahead of us and blocked my car off. Then a man in plain clothes came out of the car with a gun and pointed it at us. Of course, my instincts kicked in, and I thought he was an armed robber, so I kind of found a way to maneuver and speed off. He jumped in his car and chased after us. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I just kept driving. And at some point, we found ourselves on the Olusegun Obasanjo Way when we noticed he had chased us into an ambush laid by policemen. Well, at least there was a police truck parked right beside what looked like 6 to 10 men holding guns and blocking the road. And then in what is still the most chilling moment of my entire life, we watched the men raise their guns at us and open fire. We found out later that there had been several reported robbery cases in the area at the time, and our dead bodies would have been paraded as the guilty armed robbers. Now, 15 years later, on the 3rd of October 2020, a young man, Joshua Ambrose, was allegedly thrown out of a moving car by members of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad in Ughelli in Delta State, and that has sparked off the current End SARS protests. Thankfully, none of us in the car that night in Abuja in 2005 died, even though Ofem was hit by a bullet on his shoulder, and he still carries the scars to this day. He has gone on to do so many things, including being the MD of Smart City Lagos. Chisom, who was also in the car, is now a leading presenter on Supersport. But many other Nigerians haven't been as lucky as us to stay alive today and fulfill their dreams. Kolade Johnson was killed by the police. Anita Akapsin was killed. Chijoke Iloanya was killed. Musab Samani was killed. Tina Ezekwe was killed. And thousands more. So when Nigerians talk about End SARS, it's not just a hashtag on Twitter. It has been our reality for far too long. Yes, the government has disbanded the police unit, but even after that, more Nigerians have been killed as peaceful protests continue across the country. Jimo Ishiak, Ikechukwu Iloamuzo, and many more have died even as government has given the police orders to stand down. As recently as yesterday, more lives were lost in Osogbo. This is not a political movement. It's literally Nigerians telling the government to give them a chance to just be alive. It's the most fundamental human right, and everyone has earned that right. So the government must be seen to be acting and not just speaking, because as long as the words of those in authority don't match what Nigerians see on the streets, trust will continue to slip away. And hopefully, this does not continue to be the case for much longer. We're going to be discussing the End SARS protests and all that's been happening across the country, and I'm joined here by Awazi Angbalaga. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Ebuka.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's been a very emotional, tough, painful, angry week for a lot of people. Tell us why you have been a part of this and what it means for you.
Well, like you said, just opening up the show, I've been a part of this because I'm trying not to die. I realized that for a majority of us that are still alive today, that have not had like very hard personal encounters with SARS, it's simply because of sheer luck. It's not because of access. It's not because of privilege, because there are privileged people who have had their loved ones or themselves be in these positions. So it's crazy that taxpayers' money is going to fund a unit of the police or the entire police force, and instead of protecting us, they're killing us, brutalizing us, raping us, among other things.
Yeah. So there's a belief that, there's people have said government has responded in some measure, and they have. SARS has been disbanded, and they've repeated that continuously in the last week plus, saying the unit has been disbanded. We've seen, the fact that a few police officers have been either fired or demoted or even arrested or whatever it is. But Nigerians are still protesting, saying it seems like government isn't listening. What are they not listening to?
Okay, it's the reason from where I'm standing and from the protests I've been at, the people I've spoken to, I would say that the government has said the things that they've said now They've said it at least 4 times in the last 4 years. All they have done is talk, talk, talk. They've told us that we are going to do this, we're going to do that, we have done this, we have disbanded, we have reformed, among other things. But we have never seen that actually happen. So this time, people are like, okay, you've said you've disbanded these people, but now you want to come and bring SWAT. How? That's dead on arrival. First of all, that unit already exists and has existed at least for the last 2 years. And secondly, why are you giving these same men that we're saying are deranged, why are you arming them with special weapons? Why are you teaching them tactics? They've said that they're not deploying the SARS officials to that unit anymore. We're saying, okay, no problem. These officials that you're saying you're disbanding, are you still integrating them into the same police force? Because all they're going to do is put on a uniform and do the exact same things. So we're not asking for that. What we're looking for is that the killer cops be held accountable. The people that have committed these crimes, because they are crimes, it's not enough to say, I'm dismissing this officer, or I'm letting them go, demoting them. We're not looking for that. We're looking for them to be charged. They're criminals. The criminals that they accuse us of being for just existing on the streets as Nigerian youth, they are the criminals.
I think one of the biggest eye-opening moments for me in this entire protest has been how organic it has been. We're seeing protests across the country. And one of the biggest flashpoints has been Abuja, and we're joined now from Abuja by Tomi Banure, who has been a key part of the protest there in Abuja. Tomi, tell me how things have evolved in Abuja. Last Sunday, I did have an Indicato here, and she was talking about tear gas and water cannons and all of that. How has the past week been since then?
Hello, Ibuka. It's been, as you said, completely organic here in Abuja. You have people who've taken time out of work, who have dedicated themselves to fighting this disease, essentially. We've organized ourselves in the sense that we have people dealing with accounts, people dealing with logistics. We have people who are trained in the medical field or doctors in their own rights, who have taken it upon themselves to take care of the ailing and the people who've been cut down during these protests. Honestly, it's been an eye-opening moment. The youth of Nigeria have banded together in a way that, frankly speaking, I've never seen before. We have come together, taken it upon themselves. In the places where the government has failed us, we've stepped up to the plate, essentially shown them how an effective government can be run. We've developed our own ecosystem. We're self-sufficient, despite the blatant efforts by the government to cut us down. They've tried to shut off our funding. We found ways around that. Luckily, we have technology on our side, and frankly speaking,
So, I mean, Abuja is in a very unique position because it's one of those cities that really doesn't have a governor, an elected official at the head who you can speak to. I mean, we've seen Lagos State, we've seen a couple of states across the country where governors have either joined the protest or addressed the protest. Some have even started acting on some of the demands of the protesters. Who do you get a sense is listening to you in Abuja?
Honestly, we've been trying to speak to the IGP for over a week now. We haven't been addressed directly by the IGP. We've had the vice president address us on social media. We would rather be addressed via live broadcast on television, not for only ourselves to see on Twitter, but for the world to see at large. You have Nigerians living, 40% of us, under the poverty line. Not so many people have access to social media. The vice president addressed us on social media. Not everyone has Twitter.
I'm going to come back to you, Tomi.
We'd like to be addressed.
Let me come to you, Awazi. I mean, a lot of people have talked about, this, the fact that demands have been met. And the government, I mean, we've seen the Lagos State governor almost speak to us almost every day on social media, at least, talking about, we've arrested these people, we've demoted these people. And we also had Mr. President, what looked like, I think it was about almost a 2-minute clip that we saw on Twitter sometime during the week. Why is this address on live television so important? What does it do for the protests, or at least for the demands, to sort of be seen to be met?
Right. So every single time people come and talk to us on social media, we see that they're talking. But again, talk, no action. It was on social media they told us that they've told the police officers to stand down, but they're still attacking protesters. They should come on national television. People who don't have access to social media should see that. Nigerians should see that we're being taken seriously and that our lives actually matter.
Yeah.
The president gave us a 2-minute clip on social media and just, glossed around the matter. I don't think that he addressed anything that was, spot on. None of them have mentioned the name of one person that has been killed by SARS. Are we only statistics? Do we not matter? We've said the names of these people time and again. There are projectors everywhere saying the names. Jimo just died a few days ago. His name is not mentioned by anybody, not even by his governor on national television. They've said it on social media, and it's easy to copy and paste, but we need to know that you are there. And also, like I said, and I will keep saying, enough talk. Let's see you do. We're tired of all it's okay.
Yeah.
4 times in the last 4 years, it's enough.
So there's a belief that, the belief is that this movement is very youth-based. Young people are driving this, and they're driving it on Twitter. So why not address them on Twitter? Is that a valid argument?
I think that we're driving it on Twitter and social media because we realize that these are the tools that are most powerful for us. We have tried other ways, and we have seen that they've not been very effective. We also know that, and this might not even end up nicely with anyone, but we also know that the government controls the press in Nigeria as independent as the press says they are.
Yeah.
There are sanctions, there are things in place. So no matter how we try to put our voices out there, social media is going to be the most accurate and the easiest way we can get our word out there and also affect other people around the world. Call attention. It is social media that we have used to crowdfund. It is social media that we have used to reach international media. It is social media we have reached to use influential leaders around the world. And we're getting attention, but it is not enough to talk to us there.
Yeah.
Come and talk. We're here. We're your people. We put you there.
Yeah. Let me come back to you in Abuja now. What do you think is going to make a difference at this point? Because we're going into our 3rd week now, it looks like, of these protests. People have been thinking, they can't sustain it for this long, but the protests still seem to be going on. We don't seem to know if it's going to go on any much longer or shorter, or if whatever is going to end. But what do you think is going to be sort of a dampener for people, from government at least, or something to sort of assuage people going forward at this point?
It's very simple, honestly speaking. We've tabled our demands, which are the 5 for 5. We demand the immediate release of all protesters. We demand adequate pay for the police so they can actually and actively take on their actual duties, which is protecting lives and citizens. We want an independent panel to psychoanalyze and conduct tests to retrain the police of the SARS if they're eventually going to be put back into the police force. We've tabled our 5 for 5. There's a list of demands already.
Yes.
And once these are met, then we see where that goes.
And that's also the argument, because, you're on social media, I'm sure, and you see a lot of the hashtags. A lot of other hashtags have started creeping up as well. We're seeing hashtag end bad governance, police reforms. There's a lot of these other hashtags that have sort of started becoming a part of the conversation. And there's a belief that these 5 demands get met and it becomes other things. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, as it should be. The NSARS movement is simply the genesis. It's simply the start of the reform of Nigeria as a whole. It's the start of a new Nigeria. It was what's needed to happen for the youth to wake up, for the people in power. I can't call them leaders because, frankly speaking, they haven't led us anywhere. But for the people in power to know that we've woken up. We've been labeled lazy youth. We've been protesting for over 10 days now, hours on end. This is simply the beginning of a new Nigeria, and it should be addressed as such.
What do you think has made this quite effective? And I mentioned being organic at the start. What do you think has made it, as successful, at least as it has seemed in most parts of the country?
I think the effect of social media can't be downplayed because it's a means by which we're able to spread our message to the world at large, to Nigerians in diaspora, to celebrities here and outside the country with large following. They've been able to touch on the subject, to engage in the conversation, and thus shed light, put the spotlight on Nigeria, and in some way force and embarrass our government into action, into immediate action.
Do you think they're embarrassed?
Absolutely. I mean, I would be, but it doesn't end here. It needs to continue. I think the government hasn't taken us seriously, or they didn't take us seriously the first 2 days. They maybe thought, it's going for 48 hours and it'd be a phase and it'd go by the wayside. But I think we've shown in their disrespectful response the change that we want to see. Yeah. It's only enraged the youth more. It's poured petrol on fire. We've been through hell under SARS, no pun intended. And the youth banding together, coming together, only shows that the governments have no choice but to respond to our demands.
Awazi, let me come to you. Do you think the government is embarrassed?
I think they need more shame. Because if you were embarrassed and you were ready to do the work, you will not come on Twitter and be telling us at 11:25 p.m. that you have seen our hashtags and then use our little buzzwords. I think that if the government is embarrassed enough, then they would parade those killer cops. The way the Nigerian police likes to parade suspects and say that they are criminals, they will parade those cops. We have not seen them.
Yeah.
If they're embarrassed, they would actually start doing the work. Before they say that they want to call us to talk to us, they will start doing the work. We would start seeing that they have action plans and they have timelines. We are going to do this by the end of this week. And then we will know that, okay, this is the timeline that has been set in place and we'll hold you people accountable.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen that, so they're not embarrassed enough.
Like Tommy said, do you think, getting a check of all the 5 demands on that list would assuage people? And secondly, do you see government actually checking those things off?
I'm hoping the government checks those things off, because if they don't, well, the truth is Nigerian youth, by their doing, are not very employed. A lot of us, we're at home, huh? And then we have time. We have support. We have energy. We'll be there. We will demand. I think Nigerian youth have woken up, and it is time for us to stay awake and keep asking for the right things to be done. I don't know that once those 5 things are checked off, people will be off the streets, because the 5 things and those requests came up and these protests have sparked up from decades of pain and grief and fear. It's not just SARS. It's not just the police, but at least that's there.
Yeah.
That's the place to start. We've told you, if you want to start, this is where to start. Let us see you taking. Let's do it.
The federal government has also, said that the state governors should set up, judicial panels of inquiry and all of that. We've had some state governors starting to do that. We had the River State governor saying that is not supposed to be our job, because I know that when we do this, we don't have the powers, to implement anything. So the state governments that are setting that up, we've seen Lagos State also talking about, arresting officers and trying to prosecute them. Does that help, or do you see a situation where certain states start to pull back, because certain state governors are doing a lot more than the others? Do you think that's going to be a case?
I think that the SARS issue, it's a federal issue. So many states, right now, we have multiple states across the Federation protesting, over, I would say, 20 states at the very least. What happens to the other states?
Yeah.
No, we say this on social media all the time. No one left behind. So we must all move. It does not start and end with Lagos or Abuja. It does not start and end with Osogbo. It is a lie. It doesn't end with River State. No way. We all go.
And that's what's important. Quickly, Tommy, before we go, are you hopeful about this entire movement?
I'm hopeful. I'm encouraged by the youthful exuberance of my colleagues and myself. It bodes well for the future, I think.
Okay.
If Nigerians can be as transparent, as driven, as motivated as the youth have shown this past couple of weeks, I think it bodes well for the country. Nigeria is heading in the right direction. Not by their doing. A lot of us have been educated to a certain degree, and we know what a developed country looks like. We know what that feels like. That's all we want. That's all we demand. We demand that of ourselves. Once we're put in leadership positions, I think Nigeria is going to get back to the country it's supposed to be. The moniker we've labeled ourselves as the giants of Africa. I think the youth of Nigeria can actually propel the country to that status. As of yet, we're not there with the present government, but we'll get there, definitely.
Thank you very much, Tommy Banure. Thank you very much, Awazi. This
you.
conversation, I feel like, is just starting. I don't know how long the protests are going to be on for, but the conversation in itself is definitely going to be a long and ongoing one. Thanks a lot for being here today.
Thank you, and thank you to Nigerian youth and women.
We'll take a break now and be right back. Please don't go away. All right, welcome back. We're still talking about the End SARS protest, which is sweeping across the country, and I'm joined by Mr. Makarodi, who has been the leading voice right from the start of the protest. Thanks for being here today. I want to talk demands now, because it looks like that's been the crux of everything. You know, government seems to say, okay, what do you people want? They've said send representatives over and over, trying to set up panels with young people. Young people are saying, these are our demands. What are these demands? Because what do you want to see from governments that you think would show you that there's some level of action coming from them?
Okay, well, thank you, Ebuka. First, I would say I'm only a concerned Nigerian youth. Yes, maybe because one or two people know me, it might look like, okay, Macaroni, you will see his face. But I'm just as concerned as every other Nigerian youth is concerned. What I think, when we say demands, you know, it seems like the government, the youths, maybe they keep going back and forth on what demands are. It's clear. What do you even do? What do you do in situations like this? Show a sign of good faith. Good faith. Show to the Nigerian youth that you're ready to listen, that you have listened, and you keep saying you're working on them, but there are decisive actions that can be taken that will prove to the Nigerian youth that yes, okay, they are beginning to listen.
So you don't think there's been decisive action?
I don't.
So to play devil's advocate here, the SARS has been disbanded, like I said. Lagos State government has fired a number of police officers. We've seen dismissals in Anambra State. We've seen police officers, being talked about being prosecuted. Why are those not enough?
SARS has been disbanded. What is SARS? SARS is, forget about the special anti-robbery squad thing. SARS is a menace. It's a threat that is going on in the country.
It's beyond the unit.
Yeah, it is. That's why we're saying for a complete reform of the police force. Now you're saying SARS has been disbanded. You are still intimidating protesters. You're arresting them. You're putting them in prison, unknown to people. So, for instance, the case of Ojabi, I already came up. If not for Ojabi, people would not know that Ayorinde is in prison. And the people that were going, the lawyers that were going, the police officers, they kept denying that nobody like that is there. So there's so much impunity, and it reeks from the very top. So you find us, we are saying we are tired of these things. The things that we are tired of is still the same thing that you are doing. And you want us to believe that you're listening to us? You say there's going to be a reform, a reform is in progress. Who is supervising this reform? This menace started on, it could have been there, but now people are crying. And it's right under the nose of the Inspector General of Police. Now the Inspector General of Police is still in office. He's still the one to supervise the reform. Are we joking here?
Okay, well, we're joined by Jola via Skype. Jola, how are you doing, if you can hear me? We're talking here about demands. There's a lot of talk about, what the young people want out of this. And I've been talking with Mr. Macaroni here, talking about, what exactly would assuage people? Because that's what I think government wants to hear. What do you think government needs to hear or do? I beg your pardon.
I can't speak for... Ebuka, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Good afternoon. Hi, Dewo. Hope you're well. I think they are, speaking as a concerned citizen, just as a private individual, I think there are things the government can do in the short and long term. So there are things that can be done in 5 days. There are things that can be done in the space of, let's say 90 days. And then there are things that can be done within the year. But if you're talking about within the year, right, within the first 5 days, if you are saying what should they do to show a sign of good faith, to show action, that's the question, right, Ebuka?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing is a public apology to the Nigerian people from the very top. There hasn't been, in my personal opinion, there hasn't been enough levity given to the situation. And this constant talk of youths are not the only ones affected by the actions of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad and the rot in the Nigerian police force. But within 5 working days, for instance, the Nigerian government, federal government could say, okay, they are constituting a public commission of inquiry that's going to hold public hearings on the excesses of SARS. Okay, let's say this commission can have, there's this thing that's happening where there's an idea that you choose 2 random youths or 1 random youth and you give them a spot on a panel. No, make it half and half, 9 members. Young people, and that will include lawyers, human rights specialists within this team. We can have 4 representatives, which will include like the secretary, and then the federal government will bring their 5 reps that can include the chairman. My personal opinion, any DIG in charge of the CID since the 29th of May 2015 should go on immediate suspension. Yes, getting ready to face that public commission of inquiry and other whatever sort of like internal processes the police has in place. Because it then shows that you are ready to, because this didn't start happening last week or last month. Nigerians have been dying for years. There have been rivers with bodies for years. If you are serious, if you are really trying to show young Nigerians that, we are taking this menace seriously, then why can't you start with those 2? What is holding people back? At the very least, if you found out excesses in 2, 3, 4, we have SARS offices called abattoirs, for the love of God. And what's the best you can do? A governor is going to stroll in there and just sort of like survey what's going on. That's wrong. In my personal, these are things that I think show a sign of good faith. We hear that SARS is off the road, but we're still seeing pictures and reports from around the country of officials stopping young Nigerians and going through their phones and harassing them. So, who is really fooling who? I cannot understand this disdain, this lack of care that is being shown to young Nigerians. There are things you can do in 5 days. There are things you can do in 90 days. There are things you can do in a year. Reform takes a year, we know. But what are the immediate steps you are taking to make sure that young Nigerians understand that you are not only working to make them feel safe, but you're taking this extremely seriously. And you're not treating us like nuisances dancing on the road because we're having fun. We are dying. We are literally dying.
I'm going to come back to you, Jola. You very, very valid points. I mean, she's been very specific, with the kind of demands that she's looking at. But like I was talking with the guests earlier on, these demands seem to be snowballing into other things. We're seeing hashtag end bad governance. We're seeing a few other hashtags that are starting to, feed into this, what NSAS started. Do you think meeting these demands will get Nigerians off the streets?
For right now, I'm not the spokesperson for the Nigerian youth, so I cannot say whether whatever the government does now is going to get the youths off the street. One thing I'm certain of is that I'm a Nigerian youth, and I'm going to continue to use my voice to speak about these issues. Now, we're talking about the government meeting the demands, and maybe later then they are snowballing into other things. Why not meet these demands first? Why not begin to take action? Why not start doing, we're protesting, and our lives are not even secured. Safety is still a concern, and so we cannot even talk about any other thing until every Nigerian youth is sure that his or her life is safe. Safety comes first. And then we'll talk about other things.
Yeah. Do you get a sense that government will respond to these demands? Because on the one side, we've seen some level of action. Like I mentioned earlier, from certain state governors, from the Inspector General of Police making certain announcements. But on this list, especially the 5 for 5, which has become sort of the most visible demands from young people, do you get a sense that government will act on them?
I'm not in government, so I wouldn't be able to say if they will or they will not. But one thing, what I'm sure about is that the leadership level in this country has been awful. It's been nothing to write home about. So, and you see, government has always had it easy going for them in this country.
Yeah.
A lot of recklessness, a lot of corruption here and there, and it's been easy. Nobody says anything. I mean, you come to us, you tell us snakes swallowed something million, and everybody will just laugh, and and we've been so used to it. We've been so used to impunity, such that if a governor or president or anybody fixes a road, we'll be like, you did something. Are you kidding me? It's your job. Do it. That's why you're there. So I won't be able to say whether that will get it. But can they even start by doing something?
Yeah.
Can they start by actually doing something? You're saying SARS has been disbanded. You put the officers somewhere. Is that, have you started prosecuting these officers? Dismissal, is that punishment? Have they admitted? Nigerians need to hear the stories. These stories, a lot of stories are hidden. They are hidden. Nigerians need to listen to the atrocities committed by these officers. It needs to be public for the whole world to see. The whole world should know what we are going through, what we are facing, and why the Nigerian youths are saying enough is enough.
Jola, let me come back to you. I know we don't know how long this is going to go on for. People are just sort of like, because of how organic things are, it just seems like we wake up another day, whatever, emotions people are feeling is what dictates the tune. But hypothetically speaking, if the protests end today, do you feel like Nigerian youth have won anything out of this?
I do not think so. I think that there is still an attitude of first of all, there's this thing of us being referred to as children. I hear that quite a bit. The children, our children, young Nigerian children. No, we are just your constituents, please and thank you. Because no leader, no parent will see what is happening to would have anything that SARS officials and rotten police officials do to their child and let it go. Or just continue waiting and watching. I don't believe so. There hasn't been any decisive action that lets us know that the Nigerian federal and state government are willing, ready, and able to do the work required to reform long term, because the short term actions haven't been taken. Yes, that's my personal view.
So one of the biggest, talking points as well of this entire, organic protest has been the fact that, there's no leader. We've seen so many conversations online saying, who's going to lead this? We need a representative. Someone should come and speak to us. How are things running? Because I know you are also part of, a coalition that has been sort of supporting the movement as well. How have things been able to run for this long without a leader, in quotes? And I mean, it's quite boggling, I believe, for a lot of people who are watching from the sidelines.
That's interesting because social media over the last decade has shown us what cross-country collaboration can do. Because it's such a widespread issue and so many people are affected personally, what is happening is that in small clusters, individuals are coming together to figure out what is needed to make our voices heard. And that includes feeding. If you're talking about sort of like, I guess it's sort of like the welfare, it is honestly individuals stepping up and figuring out the best ways to work together for one goal. That is all this is. It is the same way for the most part any association would run. It is just that it boggles the mind for most people that there is no single leader. It is clear people need to eat. It is clear people need protection. It is clear people need data or they need support mentally or emotionally. And Nigerians are coming together using tools they have available, most of them that have been developed in the last decade or so, to just work with each other. It's a spirit of camaraderie. We understand what each person is going through. And we know that as a unit, we demand better of the government, because this is state-backed apparatus we are dealing with. If the government isn't taking decisive action, it then looks to us like they support the killing of Nigerians. So based on that, anyone, anywhere, who is coming out to make their voices heard and make their demands known is doing their part, in essence. It's not, I am more boggled by the idea that it is rocket science, that people are working together for a common goal. That is what is even more baffling to me. Not that there is no one.
There's also been an argument, that at what point do you start shifting strategy? There's talks about, panels, like you even mentioned, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Do we at a point start to say, okay, maybe we need to start having representatives to speak on certain issues for us? Are we ever going to get there, you think?
The ball is in the government's court, Ebuka. It is very clear. which is very clear. The actions, decisive actions that can be taken are very obvious. And until then, it is in bad faith to ask women who have lost children or fathers who have lost children or people who have lost siblings or loved ones or people who have had death scares and threats, who have been raped and beaten and harassed, who are scared to move around freely, even as citizens of their own country, to just believe in the best and hope for the best. I think that is wrong. A change in strategy will come from a change in attitude. And it's very simple. This thing of, oh, but we want to talk to you. I'll use a very simple example. I'm sure, Ebuka, when you were a child, there are times you would want something. And sometimes your mother would tell you, Ebuka, do this thing first, and then I will answer you. And until you did it, what would happen? She would not answer you. As soon as you started showing, sometimes you wouldn't even have done what she asked of you. But when you start showing what signs, you are trying, you want to, you are making an effort. Ebuka, what is it you wanted again? Let's have a discussion. Until then, young Nigerians who are afraid of dying will stay on the road. That is just the truth. We will keep crying and screaming and protesting because that is all we can do while alive. We would really appreciate being here in the long term. That's what this is all about.
Look, let me come to you now, Mr. Macaroni. She talks about, action there. And I want to talk about, the president and the vice president. A lot of people have, called them out a lot about, not talking to Nigerians, especially since these have started. But we've got, like I was talking to the guests earlier, we did get a sort of a 2-minute clip from Mr. President on Twitter, I think sometime earlier this week. We've seen tweets from both of them as well on social media. Those do not seem to be enough. I mean, people around the president would always tell you he doesn't have to speak up. The Inspector General of Police can address things around the police. The Minister of Police Affairs and the state governors can handle their states. Why is it important for Mr. President to speak?
Why is it important for the president to be president? Why is it important? Okay, so if tweets can do it, and if those clips once in 10 days can do it, why don't they keep that same energy during elections? During elections, you're going from place to place, from state to state, from local government to local government, and you're promising the Nigerian people that you will do better. You will do better than the previous one. So when we are in a state as this, where your people, those people that you have promised to take care of, are crying to you, you have no business sending tweets to us. Your business is to every day give a situation report. If you are on top of the situation, that is. If you are actually on top of the situation, every day you tell us something. These are the steps we're taking. These are the steps that we are taking. Tomorrow, this is going to happen. Next tomorrow, this is going to happen. Today, this is what happened. But you're there sending tweets, telling the people to calm down. Is that how you were elected into government? So, people need to see. I need to see. They need to wake up. They are used to sleeping. So they should wake up and talk to the people. Only then I'm answering when all of this I think would stop. I'm just one person, but the people need to see something. Show them something. Show them. Then we can now talk about, it will now take a while for this to happen. It will take. When the Nigerian youth see that the government is serious, then they can now start talking about maybe you want to sit at the table, you want to do this or do that.
Well, on that very passionate note, we're going to have to wrap this up. I mean, this conversation, I believe, is just starting. Thank you very much, Mr. Macaroni. Thanks a lot, Jola, for joining us via Skype. And we're going to take a break and be right back. All right, welcome back. We're going to continue the conversation on the NSAS protest across the country. I'm joined now by Chidi Okereke to help us wrap a lot of the emotions and things up today. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
What have you seen? Because I know you've been out there quite a few times. And what are you hearing from Nigerians? We see a lot of things online, a lot of the people in government are not at the protest, so a lot of the feedback he gets is probably from what they are seeing online. But what do you feel when you're at this protest?
I feel the energy, first of all. This is like, where you've pushed people to the wall. They keep breaking the wall, they keep breaking it, and then they get to a point, it's concrete, they can't break it anymore, and they are pushing back. That is where people are. There are no jobs, ASU is on strike, so people have time, and people are angry, and people are frustrated. And some people just want to have fun. Some people are just, it's like, this is the generation of rebellious people. So it's a combination of all these things. So the energy at the protest is, we can keep it on. We are going to stay until the government meets the demands.
Yeah.
Of course, some people are like, we're tired. Some people are like, we just want it to be over. But to be honest, the major sentiment is that we're going to stay here for as long as it takes these people to do what we're asking for.
One of the biggest arguments of Nigerians who are not necessarily part of the protest, who might be in support of what, the fight is, has always been, or has been, this whole talk about, blocking of the roads. We saw the Abuja Airport Road a couple of days ago, where it was completely shut off for hours on end. Lagos has been pretty much shut down from the island to the mainland. We've seen it in Port Harcourt, across the country, saying that that's not the right way to protest by inconveniencing, innocent Nigerians who are not members of SARS. Is there a right way to protest?
There isn't a right way to protest. The only right way to protest is to make sure that you're not violent. That's the right way to peacefully protest. Is to make sure that you're not destroying stuff, you're not destroying property. Everybody has to be uncomfortable. If we're going to be temporarily uncomfortable, for us to be permanently comfortable, let's do it. Your temporary discomfort is nothing compared to permanent deaths. It's nothing compared to it at all. And then people are talking about traffic. I understand that. I understand that. I know where you're coming from. But let's be honest, if you live in Lagos, you are used to traffic already. There are times that trucks will be parked on the road. There are times that HNIs will be doing parties and they will block the road. And then people, before this protest and everything, I've been in traffic that lasted 9 hours. I've been in traffic that as soon as I got to the house, I showered and I went back to work. So what are you saying about traffic? Abuja, when the president or somebody wants to do their motorcade and convoy, do they not block roads? So it's not something new. The point is that people have to feel the discomfort. When all these other people who are not part of the protest, who feel like it doesn't concern them because they've not lost somebody or it's not personal to them, when they feel the pain, they will tweet or they will message or they will call those who they can call, those who they elected and they put in power to put pressure on the government to meet the demands of the protest. Everybody has to feel the heat. Yeah. Everybody must feel it.
I've asked everybody who's been on this show today, do you get a sense that government is listening?
They're listening. They're hearing. Now, listening is an ambiguous word. Are they listening to actually accede to the demands? I don't know. I'm not even listening to anybody who's in government now because their method of thinking is quite different from those of us who are actually feeling the heat. So, to some extent, you see that compared to other protests where, it's sometimes online, it's sometimes one day, and then they'll, write some things on paper and act like they've listened. You see that there are certain differences. What they were saying last week is different from what they said yesterday, what they said 2 days ago. So to some extent, you have a feeling that some impact is being made, but it is not close to what we want. It's not rocket science, Baba. It's not rocket science at all.
So a lot of young people have been criticized, there have been videos of, music and food and dance and, all of these things at a lot of these protests. And there's been, conversations about the motivation behind the protest. Are the people really protesting, end SARS, or are they going there to hang out?
There are many reasons, like I said earlier, there are many reasons why people come out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's rebellion. Sometimes it's the fact that they've lost somebody. Sometimes it's the fact that, young people are doing this, I have to be among. From my own personal point of view, anything that brings you out and keeps you at all those pain points of the government and the community to sustain this protest, please come outside. Just don't do anything illegal. For me, that's what it is. All protests around the world, everybody needs motivation to come out. If music is why people will come out, play music there, let people dance. If they want to play football, let them play football, but at every given time, hourly, every 30 minutes, ensure that people understand the main reason why they are there. Yeah. So if it's every 30 minutes, there's a big goal or something, and people just, a moment of silence for those who are dead, take a knee, do something symbolic. It is very, very important. But every other thing that is not illegal, that can keep them there, please, don't stop anybody from doing it.
Is it too early to start asking, where do we go from here?
It is not too early. To be honest, it's not too early. But those conversations are distracting because everybody has a different idea of where they want to go from here. I have a different idea. Macaroni has a different idea. My own idea is that this is a win for us. We know that we can now come together and do stuff without necessarily having central leadership, without necessarily having a small carcass group that, you know, that the government can influence and everything. It's a win for me. It's a lesson. It's one for history books. So I know that if we come together as young people and push for more representation in politics, in power, in government and all that, we can actually make it happen.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? That's conversation for when we win this fight.
Yeah. And what would be a win? Is it checking off the 5 for 5 agenda? Is it, because I've been saying this today, it's snowballing into a lot of other things. We are saying, you know, hashtag end bad governance.
Yeah.
We are saying hashtags about electoral reforms. There's so many hashtags now, people are wondering, what is this becoming?
A win for me is that after these protests, every policeman is afraid of asking for bribe. Every policeman is terrified of asking for bribe. And as a result, other public servants are afraid of bullying people or asking for bribes. That's a win for me. Now, that might, of course, that's a process. It's not a one-time thing. Yeah, we have somehow people came together and brought out those 5 things. I'm not even satisfied with the 5. A lot of people are not satisfied with the 5 because, to be honest, that number 5 in particular,
has been very
I don't care about
contentious.
it. I do not care about. I cannot be fighting for somebody that is shooting me. There are 200,000 policemen in Nigeria. If they feel aggrieved about their payment and all their welfare, let them go and take their own projects. We'll support them. So let them do their own thing. Let's do our own thing. But I mean, I'm not the only person who's you know, making the decisions and everything. So there are 5 that there's like a consensus. Let them attend to at least 4 of those 5. They can leave the number 5 for later. That's their business. But at least 4 of them. Then we'll know that they are serious about this thing. Those 5 things are easy. They're pretty easy. It's not rocket science.
All right. I mean, I guess I've said it all day. This is a conversation that is literally just starting. There's so much to talk about in the coming days and weeks. Hopefully by this time next week, we're not as impassioned or angry as we are, and hopefully government would have, you know, acceded to a lot of these demands by young people. Thanks a lot, Chidi, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Wherever you are across Nigeria, please stay safe. We're also definitely talking to the Nigerian police. Do not get violent with peaceful protesters. People do have a right to express themselves and, you know, protest in a democratic nation, and it is nobody's place to kill anyone for speaking up and, you know, demanding better from government. Thanks a lot for being here today. I'll see you next Sunday.